You probably think you understand money. You work for it. You spend it. You try to save what's left. And if you're careful, you invest a little and hope you're doing the right thing. So when prices go up, the explanation always sounds familiar. Inflation, the economy, global uncertainty, supply chains, interest rates. It all sounds technical, complicated, out of your control. But there's a much simpler question hiding underneath all of that. A question most people never stop to ask. Who actually profits when your money changes value? Not prices, not the economy, not headlines. Your money itself. Because money doesn't just exist. It doesn't come with a natural price tag attached to it. Money is priced. And whenever something is priced, there is always someone on the other side of that decision. Most people experience money only at the surface level. They feel it when groceries cost more, when rent increases, when savings don't seem to go as far as they used to, even though the number in the account hasn't changed. But very few people ever look upstream. Upstream is where money is created, where it enters the system, where its speed, cost, and availability are decided. And here's the uncomfortable part. Every time the value of your money shifts, someone benefits. Not randomly, not accidentally, but because the system rewards certain positions over others. This video isn't about blaming anyone. It's about understanding the game you're already playing. Because if you don't know who profits from pricing your money, you'll keep thinking money is failing you, when in reality, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. To understand who profits from pricing your money, we first need to understand something more basic: what money actually is and what it is not. Most people think money works like a product, like gold, or oil, or food. They assume money has value on its own, but money isn't a thing. It's a system built on rules, trust, timing, and control. Take the same bill in your hand. 50 years ago, it could buy you far more than it can today. The paper didn't change. The ink didn't change. The pricing did. That's because money has no fixed value. Its value depends on decisions like how much money exists, who gets access to it first, how expensive it is to borrow, how fast it moves through the economy. All of those are choices. Now think about how this plays out in everyday life. Two people live in the same city. They use the same currency. They face the same prices. But their experience of money is completely different. One person earns a paycheck and saves what they can. The other borrows cheaply to buy assets. When money becomes cheaper, one side feels relief. The other side barely notices. When money loses purchasing power, one side struggles to keep up. The other side already positioned themselves before prices adjusted. Same system, same currency, very different outcomes. And this is the key idea most people miss. If money were neutral, changes in its value would affect everyone equally. But they don't, because money doesn't reward effort or fairness. It rewards position. The closer you are to where money is created and priced, the more you benefit when its value shifts. The farther away you are, the more you feel the consequences, without ever being asked. So before we ask who profits from pricing your money, we need to understand something fundamental. Money doesn't fail. People misunderstand how it works. What makes this even harder to see is that money feels neutral. You earn it. You receive the same currency as everyone else. The numbers look identical. So it feels fair, but neutrality is an illusion. Money only looks neutral when you ignore timing. If two people receive the same amount of money, but one receives it earlier, cheaper, or with fewer conditions, they are not playing the same game. This is why money rewards access more than effort. One person works harder but receives money last. Another works within the system and receives money first. And when money is repriced, timing matters more than intention. This is also why people often say, "I did everything right, but I still fell behind." They're not wrong. They were just positioned too far away from the pricing mechanism. Money doesn't measure fairness. It measures structure, and structure always favors those who understand it. And once you see that money has no fixed value, the next question becomes unavoidable. What actually happens when that value starts to move? Every movement in money creates two sides. When money becomes cheaper to borrow, someone wins. When it becomes more expensive, someone else wins. When money loses purchasing power, someone benefits from that loss. This isn't a theory, it's mechanical. Let's slow this down. Imagine a typical money cycle. First, money becomes cheap. Interest rates fall, credit expands, borrowing feels easy. At this stage, those who can access money early gain an advantage. They borrow, they deploy capital, they buy assets. Prices start to rise. Next, money spreads, spending increases, asset values climb, confidence grows. From the outside, it looks like prosperity, but underneath, positions are already being set. Then comes the shift. Inflation appears. Prices rise faster than wages. The cost of living increases. Now money begins to tighten. Interest rates rise. Credit becomes more expensive. Access shrinks. And here's the part most people experience. Those who entered early already benefited. Those who waited now feel pressure. Savers lose purchasing power. Late borrowers feel squeezed. Everyday people feel like they're running harder just to stay in place. But the system isn't broken. It's completing a cycle. Money moves through channels, and whoever controls those channels controls who benefits at each stage. This is why financial cycles feel unfair, because they are not designed to feel fair at the individual level. They are designed to maintain stability at the system level, and stability always has a cost. What makes this cycle even more confusing is that everyone experiences the same moment differently. At the exact same time, some people feel opportunity, others feel pressure. Some see cheap money, others see rising costs. This is why financial conversations often feel disconnected. People aren't disagreeing about facts. They're describing different positions inside the same system. When money is expanding, those with access feel optimistic. When money tightens, those without access feel trapped. Neither side is lying. They're just standing in different places. This is also why advice feels so inconsistent. What works for one group fails completely for another. Not because the advice is wrong, but because the system doesn't reward everyone equally. Money moves first. Information moves later. Understanding usually arrives last. By the time most people realize what changed, the cycle has already moved on. Which brings us to the question people avoid asking. If money is being priced, who is doing the pricing? Because money doesn't price itself, and the mechanism behind that pricing matters more than most people realize. There is no secret room, no hidden meeting deciding your personal future, just a system. A system where pricing money means controlling a few key levers: interest rates, liquidity, access to credit, timing. Those closest to these levers don't need to take your money directly. They profit from how your money is priced. They borrow when money is cheap. They deploy capital before prices adjust. They position themselves ahead of the cycle. By the time changes reach everyday people, the advantage has already been captured. This is why financial news always feels late. This delay is not accidental. Information follows money. Those closest to pricing decisions feel changes before they are announced. Those farther away learn through headlines, explanations, and excuses. This is why financial news often explains the past instead of preparing you for the future. By the time something becomes obvious, the advantage has already been taken. This is also why people feel like the system is rigged, even when no one is actively cheating. The rules don't need to be hidden, they only need to be misunderstood. And misunderstanding is incredibly profitable because confusion keeps people reactive instead of positioned, because the effects show up long after the decisions were made. And this is why people often feel like they're one step behind. They're reacting to outcomes, not positioning ahead of mechanisms. This isn't about good or bad intentions. The system doesn't require anyone to be evil. It simply rewards access, scale, and proximity to decision-making. If you understand how money is priced, you can anticipate who benefits before the headlines appear. And once you see this, it changes how you interpret everything. Inflation stops looking random. Interest rate changes stop feeling mysterious. They become signals. Signals about who is being protected and who is being asked to absorb the adjustment. Money doesn't punish you. It responds to incentives. And the most powerful incentive in the entire system is control over pricing. This is why so many people feel exhausted chasing money. They work harder. They plan carefully. They do what they're told is responsible. And yet, it still feels like progress is slipping through their fingers. Not because they're lazy, not because they're bad with money, but because they're running on a moving surface. Most people believe money is a scoreboard. If you work harder, the numbers should go up. If you make good choices, you should move ahead. But money isn't a scoreboard. It's a measuring tool that keeps changing its own scale, so people increase effort while the system quietly changes the pricing underneath them. This creates a very specific kind of fatigue, not physical exhaustion, but mental exhaustion, the feeling that no matter how much you adjust, you're always reacting instead of arriving. This is also why conversations about money often turn emotional. People feel like they're doing everything right and still falling behind. They don't realize they're paying a cost that never appears on any statement, an invisible cost, not a tax you can see, not a fee you can track, but a cost created by how money is priced over time. When money loses purchasing power, it quietly transfers value away from people who hold it. When access to money becomes more expensive, it quietly favors those who already have it. No announcement is needed. No explanation is required. The system doesn't need permission. It just keeps moving. And most people don't fail because they made bad decisions. They fail because they were never taught to look at money as a system that changes its own rules. Once you see this, something important happens. You stop blaming yourself for outcomes you never controlled, and you stop expecting money to behave like something it was never meant to be. Money isn't a promise, it's a mechanism, and mechanisms don't care how hard you try. They respond to positioning. So what does all of this actually mean for you? Not in theory, but in the real world you live in every day. This video isn't telling you to fear money. It's telling you to stop treating it as neutral. Money is not broken. It isn't unfair by accident. It behaves exactly as designed. The real risk isn't inflation. It's misunderstanding the system that prices your money. Because when you don't understand pricing, you blame symptoms instead of structure. You chase higher income while ignoring how money itself is being revalued beneath you. Once you understand this, your perspective shifts. You stop asking, "Why is everything getting more expensive?" and start asking, "Who is positioned to benefit from this change?" That question alone puts you ahead of most people, not because you're smarter, but because you're looking at the right level. Money isn't about effort, it's about incentives. And once you understand who controls pricing, you stop being surprised by outcomes. In the next video, we'll go deeper. We'll look at how this pricing system actually operates, and why the same groups seem to benefit again and again. Because the real power isn't money, it's understanding who gets to price it.